Hey there, Chad here for the AI Content Dojo. In this video, I want to explore context in phrase. And this is less of a how-to video and more of a let me explore this new tool. Let me see if I can figure out the context. And what I mean by context is the information that the AI is using in order to produce the outputs that you expect. Obviously, I use the word expect because it is AI and it's sometimes creating things not quite what you expect, but having control over the context is important, and the quality of a tool can be judged quite quickly by how well it allows you to control that context so that you can try to produce what you want from it. And so what I'm going to try to do is see if I can figure out some things, because in the case of phrase, it's a little bit different, right? It's a tool that offers AI writing, but it is also an SEO optimization tool, a keyword research tool, kind of. It has many functions, right? It's definitely a topic research tool, at least. Maybe not so much keyword research, but it has all this extra stuff that a normal AI writing tool doesn't have. And so does that stuff have an impact on context? I don't know. Let's see if we can figure that part out. So what I want to do is see if I can kind of trick it a little bit. First, I'm going to just let it write with no context, and let's just see what happens. By the way, this document was created with just the search term AI context. It's a very generic term. Then I updated the title over here. Oh, crap. By the way, don't click while the AI is writing. Something I definitely have to make sure that the phrase guys are aware of, because, see, I just kind of blew it up. Now it's got this weird... All right. Let's leave it right about here. Okay, so, well, I got it on video. Don't do that. You know, if the AI is writing, don't click somewhere. Not even in the title. But anyway, what I did up here was I made the title a little bit more specific in, AI context in phrase versus what's up here in the search term for this document. I did that because chances are that in the data for phrase or whatever the AI was trained on, there's a pretty decent chance that it doesn't know specifically what phrase is, or there's very little context for it. And so it would be a case of where you would have to kind of provide some help. So you can see here, down here, it basically just starts talking about introduction to AI, and some other things. Doesn't really talk about context, doesn't really talk about phrase. So what's going on here? I'm not sure. Is the title having any effect? Does the title count at all in this? The AI context is over here, so it could be the SERP. It could be for this SERP data that's affecting it. I have a feeling, personally, what I would hope for would be that this document side on the left, where you're writing and editing, would have nothing from this sidebar in use, so that you had a blank slate to start from. And then if you wanted to use the context from over here, you could put it in. But starting from a blank slate means that you have full control from the start, and that's what I would prefer. Hopefully that's what's going on. If not, I'll provide that feedback to Phrase to see if maybe they can provide some more insights on that. So I don't really like what this is. So one of the things you would have to do, and typically you should do this anyways, is kind of seed your article with some content that you are expecting from the whole overall article. So, you might say that Phrase is an SEO optimization tool with new AI writing capabilities. And writers can use it to create optimized articles faster than before. Okay, so we got a little bit more context in there. Let's let it write. And by default, my assumption is that wherever your cursor is, up, and I believe the Phrase team said up 3,000 characters, is what it will use in context. So what that means is if your article starts getting fairly long, if you go past 3,000 characters, then it's not going to be able to reach the top of your article anymore. It'll truncate at the point where it reaches that 3,000 character limit. And That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's something to keep in mind if your article does get real long, that the top of your article, maybe your introductions and things like that, are no longer being seen by the AI, and it'd be something that you can do about it. Frase does have some features to help out with that. I'll go over those in just a little bit. But what I want to try and do now, so we're talking about basically techie kind of things, right? Like AI and Frase and SEO and stuff. Let's see if we can switch things up in the middle of our article and write about tempura, which would be weird. You wouldn't do this, but I'm just trying to test. And let's don't take the whole thing. Let's just use just a paragraph here. And if I'm stuck to it, I'm on the very end of the sentence, I hit write for me. I hope that it writes about tempura, because I would think that the best scenario would be that it does write about tempura versus trying to write about AI context. Okay, and that's very good. It is writing about tempura. Very nice, very nice. Let's see if we can just keep going. Let's see if there's a point where it kind of tries to switch up and write about techie stuff instead. It's cool. Okay, it's starting to get into a recipe of sorts. All right. I guess that's cool. Could be. All right. The best way to cook chicken breast. Interesting. So it jumps off onto another tangent here. Probably because most of the context seems to start being about food, right? So let's take this out of here. Let's see if we can try something just a little bit different. Let's do this. Let's run it down. Let's break it down a line. I think this is, what is this? Is this an H2? Nope, it's an H3. Okay. Let's leave it as a H3. I'm not sure if headings have much play, in terms of the context of the AI or not. Probably would be interesting if it did, right? Maybe H2s have a little bit slightly different meaning than an H3 even. Something to consider. I'll talk it over with Tommy and the Frase team next time I get a chance to talk to him. All right, let's go ahead and just do a write for me here. See if I broke it a line now. Let's see if it stays. Okay, so now that I'm not connected to that paragraph, it's writing about techie stuff again. Okay. In a way, I was hoping it would kind of do that. I mean, I would rather it didn't, because I'm in a new heading. You would hope that maybe kind of it realized that you were probably talking about tempura now, even though that would be super weird to do that in an AI context. Let's see if there is a way to control for that. Something like in Shortly, one of the things that you would do if you don't know what Shortly is another AI writing tool, but it has a capability. If you did triple slashes, it would cut off the context there, which means like if you were down here in your content and you were going to hit write for me with your mouse cursor basically right here, it would go up to here, because this would stop the context. Instead of going all the way to the top, this thing would tell the AI, don't go any further. Stop right here, and then use just this as the context, which would mean that you could then start writing about tempura here, and there'd be nothing for it to use. Now, like I said, I was skipping around in the video, the intro video that the Frase team put out, so I don't remember catching that they have any kind of stop, tool here like that. But if I had to guess, I think that triple hash marks is kind of the default in a lot of AI models. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that, and let's see if it tries to write about anything besides tempura. And if it does, that means that it's not cutting off context, or the sidebar SERP content is actually affecting it too. Okay, that time it did write about tempura, so very good. Let's go ahead and go down. Let's see what happens if we go down 2 lines. I mean, see if there's anything that spacing kind of causes issues with it or not. Okay, still talking about at least a technique of cooking tempura. All right. Okay, it's very nice. Here is where the keyboard shortcut Command Z would be nice. I mean, it does work, but it goes back one word at a time. It would be nice if it would do the entire thing at once, right? All the generated content for that particular write for me session or button click. But let's try it one more time. Let's just see what happens. Sometimes the AI just happens to cooperate and sometimes it doesn't. It seems like Okay. It seems like it's going to stay with temporal. So maybe triple hash marks is a way to cut that context. Another way to test this is, let's see if we take it away from temporal. Let's go down to here, and let's see if it writes about anything about AI at all. Just do write for me after the triple hashtag there, and let's see what it writes about. Is it completely random? Yep. It's trying to write code now. Okay, so that's a good sign, actually. I mean, you don't want code to come out, but it's a good sign that triple hash mark is cutting off the context. That gives you control. So if you're ever at a point in your content where it doesn't seem like you can get what you want, try cutting off the context and then adding some sort of a lead. You know, like maybe let's try this other paragraph that I have here. Sumimasen is a word in Japanese, kind of means like excuse me, but not really like, yeah, it's kind of like if you're at a restaurant and you yell out sumimasen, it's like yelling for the staff to come to you, like excuse me, I'm ready to be served or whatever, but that's a tangent. All right, I accidentally pasted in all the markdown code stuff here too. The tool over here to the right, the app that I'm using is called Bear Writer. It's an Apple app that syncs between all my devices and everything. It's really cool. And in my videos, sometimes I use it over here to kind of have some stuff prepared so that I don't have to waste your time writing out a bunch of things. And yeah, it's a good app if you want to try it. I think it's like $1.99 a month or something if you want to have it, the premium version that does all the syncing and everything between your devices. Pretty cheap. And since it's an app, by the way, since it's an app, it's really nice and smooth and fast too. A lot of people will say Notion is good. It is. It's a good tool, but it's online, and I don't really like the sort of performance of that. So that's why I use Bear. Anyway, so here we are, sumimasen. Let's see if it does anything with sumimasen now. It should, right? Shouldn't have anything to do with the AI anymore. Yep. Okay. So I think we've proven that triple hashtag does indeed cut off everything. And it also seems like maybe this SERP content over here doesn't have any kind of an impact, right? Because if I do that cutoff, it's as if the title is not even seen, right? Because it seems like maybe it goes up and continues into the title even. A lot of AI tools will have some sort of a content brief area, right? Which I think you can actually access sort of here if you go to custom controls and you put something in here, and then you use this write for me button. It's like putting in basically a content brief, and this would in theory be used, and also the 3,000 characters, or maybe slightly less even. The 3,000 characters might be the limit, so if you put 500 characters here, it might only be 2,500 up inside of the context of your editor over here on the left. Something to keep in mind. I'll ask Tommy about that again next time I talk to him. So yeah, not ready to talk about that just yet. So okay, that's a good discovery. It looks like the SERP content is it's not directly involved. Let's keep this. Actually, you know what? Let's bring back. Let me just do a copy as rich text, and let's keep the triple hashtags there. Let's bring this back, and let's go down a new line. What happens when we're in our SERP stuff over here right now? There's a feature inside of Frase that you can kind of come down here and you can see like Adobe Sensei's deep learning. Okay, that sounds cool. If I hit write for me, it's supposed to use this as context, and I guess my mouse cursor will be right there. Hit write for me, and let's see what happens when sumimasen, Japanese words and stuff are there. Is it gonna like see that as well, or is it only the stuff on the right sidebar now? Wow, it's like really going. It's really going in on that list, isn't it? Uh-oh. See, now I'm zoomed in, and so now it's acting weird. So let me see if I can get it back. Yeah. So I'm zoomed way in for the video so that you guys can see this, but then the UI kind of sometimes gets a little janky when it's zoomed way in. Okay, so it looks like if you're over here and you're in the SERP side and you hit write for me here, it's using basically the contents of the SERP side only. This sumimasen Japanese stuff didn't do anything. Let me try something again, and that's a lot. Let me see what happens if you start it with like a lead. When in Japan, you should use as much Japanese as you can because. All right, so we've got a lead. Normally, if you hit right for me right here, it would. Let me zoom out just a tad so you can see all these buttons again. It should take over and start writing about Japanese stuff, right? But I'm going to go over here now to this SERP side here. Let's see, AI and the problem of context. Okay, looks like a pretty decent one. Let's use that. If I hit right for me here, what's it going to do? Is it going to try and pick up from the lead, or is it going to go down to a new line? Interesting. Okay. It changed the date. The first time I met a computer that could beat me at chess was in 1985. Was this talking about chess? It's talking about AI. Okay. All right. It's making a whole different story out of that, I guess. I mean, that's a good thing too. And Chess Master. God, I remember that program. Okay, so it looks like only the context of the sidebar is used there, right? Because it just totally ignored my lead. If I go back to here and I hit right for me, the regular right for me, not over here in the sidebar, it should continue talking about sumimasen and Japanese and stuff. Yeah, they will appreciate your efforts to try your best to speak. And try their best to speak English. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, so that's good. It's giving you control, but then when you want to use the sidebar SERP content, you get to do that as well. It's pretty interesting. All right, now let's talk about templates. So templates give you the ability to do something and bring that content in, right? Let's see. Let's just do an introduction, just so it's simple. Let's break off the context here. Just for the first time I run this, let's see. Let's make this about tempura. We'll go back to tempura now. Well, let's do something a little bit more specific. How to make tempura. Real Japanese tempura. Okay. Right. Okay, we get a little introduction here. Get some structure. Here are 5 essential steps that you want to master the art of making. Very nice, very nice. Okay, I like that. So the template used its own stuff. Let's see what happens if I take away the hash here. Actually, let's go ahead and remove the sumimasen and everything too. Let's go back up to here where now we've got technical stuff again. Let's do it right. Let's get a bunch of the technical stuff in here now. See what we can do with if we can trick the future of content marketing. Cool. At this point, I don't care what the output is. I'm just going to continue to add a bunch so that I have, 1,000 something characters of AI and techie type of content versus how to make real Japanese tempura, right? Let's just go a couple more of these. I like how it's following a pattern, like you're writing like a little journal or something. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's just call this done. That's good enough. Okay. So let's leave it at this, and now let's let the template write for me. Let's see if it's going to be a total separate context that you can take control of. Yep. Good. I like that. Okay, good. I mean, I expected that, and that, I'm sure that you did too, but we're testing. So it does look like the templates kind of hold their own context separate from the document. That's good, so that you don't have things getting mixed up. Although, if you think about it, in a real article where you're not like just throwing random topics alongside of each other, it might be good to have the context from above, right? Because you want it to kind of blend and flow. A blog post introduction, maybe not, but something else you would. So, yeah, something to think about. I'm going to just discuss that also with Tommy, because that's something that I think would be kind of important in some templates. like where you don't want to write in a ton of the prompt, but you want it to do something to the content above it or something. So let me see. Let me go down here. Let me just start some notes. Things I need to ask Tommy. Context in templates for the above. All right. SERP context. Does it affect editor? Is triple hashtag really cutoff? All right. So, okay. I guess one more thing would be to look at the custom controls, this context here. So we've got that ticky stuff again. Let's go back. Let's see how to make real time. Let's just put this as the context in here and take that out. And I wonder what, I wonder what the point is. I imagine that it's almost as if you're kind of stepping out of the editor and you're putting your content here. So following these steps below where I have put 24 years of experience in Tokyo to good use for you. This is my own custom, unique, personal, and just leave it at that. Here you can crank how much you want it to kick out. Let's just crank it up a little bit and let's be a little bit creative. So creativity in AI, I think I discussed this in the last video. Just be a little bit careful with that. You crank that and it might just start talking gibberish to you versus being, what you might think of as when you see the word creativity, you're like, oh yeah, of course I want the AI to be really creative. But in terms of machine learning and language models, creativity more like means it can more loosely base words off of each other than being a little bit more strict about it. And you could end up with it just kind of rambling on about just weird stuff. So that's not really like human creativity, but kind of. It's about as close as they can get right now. So we'll just leave it at that. Let's just see what happens when you use this now. I'm hoping that it's only talking about tempura, the output. Uh-oh. Okay. It does not. So tempura is completely ignored and just goes on and on again. So what is this? Maybe this is some sort of like an article brief of sorts. So maybe if let's take that out. What if we started talking about Triton? So I have a paragraph down here that is about AI. It's about the Triton programming language that, take that out of there. The Triton programming language that the OpenAI team produced that will help people who are developing AI models for programming against letting them use GPUs more efficiently, and that's been kind of a limiter. I'm sure that's why OpenAI has created it. But one of the limiting factors is that you have to be really, really good with Python and understand CUDA cores and stuff like that in GPUs really deeply so that you could really maximize the performance of your model. The Triton language is something the OpenAI team produced that makes it so that people with maybe not that much experience in doing that can still achieve the same level of performance. So kudos to them. Good job. That's cool. Let's see if now that, since the stuff over on the left is sort of about AI and content. Actually, let's go ahead and remove some more of this. Let's make sure, let's go back to here. And then let's take away this pattern. I don't want it to be doing the time and stuff. And then, the date's not, so let's just make it 2021. And then let's see if it writes about Triton now. Since the left side is about AI to a degree, Triton is about AI. Let's see if that's what we're doing is kind of nudging it. See, it's talking about PyTorch. It's similar. PyTorch is something that you would use. Okay, here we go. Learn how to code with it. So yeah, I guess it's kind of nudging the output towards programming and development. Didn't really mention Triton too much, probably because it doesn't know Triton too well. And I'm not leading it or anything either, so I'll have to talk to Tommy. Like, what is what is this custom control area? I wonder what his intentions are here. It doesn't seem to. I mean, I like the creativity, the ability to actually control these things, but I'm not. This doesn't really make a ton of sense. Unless it's just a, like, even if, like, what does it do here? Let me try something. What does it do when I leave it there? Let me close this. What happens when I click it again? Still there. Okay. Now let's keep that at 100. Keep it down to 1. Leave that there. Now what happens when, let me take this stuff out again. And I'll leave it at this. What happens if I just do a regular old write for me here? Does the contents that are now still in that context area, are they used? Let's see, data science teams. What is deep learning? Okay. It seems to have written a little bit towards the computer sciencey side of things. And also, it didn't write as much. Deep learning works. Okay. Deep learning for beginners is a Udemy course it found, I guess. PyTorch, TensorFlow. It is kind of it is, because TensorFlow, I believe, is an NVIDIA product, so it does seem like maybe it is kind of using it. What happens if we just crank this all the way to 300 and just kind of pop this up a little bit, close it again, leave it closed, and actually, let me go back to it once. It resets that. It doesn't reset the context, but it resets the length. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see if it's still doing it and it's just a UI thing. So we close that and we hit write for me here. Does it crank out 300 words or characters or length, whatever that 300 means? Let's see how far it goes. Does it stop relatively soon, or does it go on and on and on? Stops relatively soon, I would say. Okay, so it seems like if that's closed, the context area seems like it might be doing something. So, custom area, does it act like a content brief? Something to ask Tommy for sure. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop here. It's getting a bit long. It's a little rambly, but like I said, it's mostly just me showing you, experimenting with the context inside of Frase. Actually, you know what? There's one more thing that I wanted to show off. Let me see what I can do with the highlighting feature. So let's put let's put Temporada back in there. Probably tired of Temporada by now, but actually I need to copy it. See, one of the nice things about Bear is you can do copy as. Bear uses Markdown in its language to when you're writing in it, but you can also copy as rich text. So in like an editor like Frase, you can just come over here and paste it in. Okay, so now we're way up here and at the top of the article versus down here, but everything from there down is kind of talking about AI stuff, right? And at the top we're talking about Tempora. Now I'm going to highlight this text. All right, so now we get all this text highlighted. Phrase's context capabilities, Tommy has told me, I think he mentioned it in his video, is that when you highlight the text like this, this becomes content that is always used by the AI. So now if I go way down here and I come down here to write, will it know? Will it use? Will it start talking about tempura sometimes? It's hard to say because there's so much context that's based off of AI and stuff. It might not talk about it. But what I want to try and do next is take that away, and let's say tempura, and then write. It's not a very good lead. Don't do, when you're trying to actually write an article, don't do that. But let's see if we can kind of push. Nope. GPU programming for, so it's funny. I would imagine that what's happening is this is doing something now. Let's take this out. And let's try that again. You can see that it kind of saw tempura and thought maybe I was talking about Triton. Food Lab. Cooking and eating, yeah. That goes back to artificial intelligence. I mean, you would kind of expect that. This is not a good, good lead for that. Although, here's another thing to think about. Let's keep Tim pretty here. Another quick experiment before I close this out. Sorry. What happens if I cut this off here? Now, tempura has a lot of context here. I wonder if, even though it's cut off, does this highlighting pull that in? And is it using it as context that this will still have access to? Let's see. Food cooked in hot water. No, that's wrong. Tempura is not boiled or steamed. It's fried. But yep. So let's see. Does highlighted text content supersede? Is that the right word? Supersede. I need to learn how to spell too. Yeah. Supersede the cutoff. Triple hash cutoff. Not sure. But I will try and get those answers, and I'll make a real video where it's more like me showing off the context versus exploring like this. But so I'm just going to stop here because it's been going on for a while, and I'm sure that you got other things to do and content to create. But I will definitely come up with more. And if you have any questions, go ahead and go down to the comments below and leave them. Or if you're in the Facebook group, the AI Content Dojo Facebook group, or in the Frase group even, because I am hanging out there now too. If you have any questions about context and stuff, drop them in there and I will try and get them answered. And until next time, take care.